Reigns with the heist of the century! Climb the ladder, kid! Make yourself famous!
The irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
God's bear witness! He is broken in half!
Iconic moments, unforgettable matches, memories that will last a lifetime. When it comes to professional wrestling, if you are talking about it, we are talking about it. Welcome to the WrestleChat Podcast with the AntMan.
Here we go. Episode number 1. Welcome to the WrestleChat Podcast. My name is the AntMan, your host. Excited to be doing this podcast. It has been a long time in the making. First, I want to introduce you to my guest host today, my buddy Michael Glavin. Michael, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me here today. Such an honor to be part of this day for you. Excited to help you get this thing rolling.
I know many of you watching or listening today can identify with the excitement that you feel when you meet another wrestling fan in the wild, in the real world. Yep. That was the case with me and Michael. I remember thumbing through your Instagram when we first met, just after we first met, and I saw a WrestleMania post, and I went, oh, we're going to be friends for life now. I can tell after meeting you
That's
once.
Right. And I'll tell you what, WrestleMania weekend is one of the few times throughout the year that I, as an adult, get that sense of wonder and joy and excitement for something so much bigger than myself. And again, when you find somebody, it takes me to Step Brothers when it's like, did we just become best friends? And so that's that. It's so great to have people that identify with wrestling. You know, there's only two kinds of people in the world. There's people that get it, and there's people that don't. And if you're in the camp that gets it, it's a special thing to be a part of.
I'll share why I started this podcast, and then I want to hear why you said yes to joining me here on the show. I had a thought about doing this or something for a few years now, and I'd planned on kicking this off last year following WrestleMania 38. I spent the better part of my life in the radio industry and interviewing country artists in radio, but I always had a passion for pro wrestling from an early age and always wanted to sit down and talk to some of my favorite wrestlers like I got to with Country Stars, but really never had the venue. I mean, talking to John Cena between Garth Brooks and Florida Georgia Line didn't really make sense. But here we are talking about something that I am passionate about. And obviously, if you're watching or listening right now, you have a passion for this too. But here on this show, we wanted to take a little different take than you'll hear from other podcasts. And to be honest, selfishly, I hope to open up this avenue for some of my favorite pro wrestlers to stop by too. So when I brought this up to you, Michael, what made you say, yeah, I'd love to be on it with you?
Well, here's the thing. The world is not short of a podcast to listen to, or more specifically, a wrestling podcast to listen to. But
So
here's the difference. There is a shortage of good podcasts and good wrestling podcasts to listen to. And knowing you like I do behind the scenes, some of the ways that our professions and hobbies have overlapped together, even at just the mention of the words that you were going to do this, I knew that it was going to be top notch, and I would be an idiot not to be a part of this, just based on our friendship, our mutual knowledge of the wrestling business, and then just the quite frankly the production and the technical skills to back up all of that. It was a opportunity that I just refused to miss. So.
Well, let's not set the bar too high for episode 1. We'll see
to
how
the
this
moon,
goes.
man, to the moon.
We're just getting started. Let's kick this off first with your favorite WrestleMania of all time and why. For you, what was it?
So I'm a little bit on the younger side, even though I've educated myself with quite a bit of wrestling history. You know, there's maybe some purist fans out there that if I'm not, sub WrestleMania 8, that I'm doing something wrong, but there's two that kind of stand out for me. The first one was WrestleMania 19. I remember as a kid, in the realm of 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, whatever, in that time range. And I remember being so enthralled with the Brock Lesnar Kurt Angle match at WrestleMania 19. And I mean, there's been obviously a lot of great WrestleMania matches. I mean, it's the showcase of the Immortals, for God's sake. But there was something about Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle and the way they were able to bring it. I don't know if it was the mutual amateur collegiate wrestling background. I don't know if it was just two guys who, Brock Lesnar was still, he was established, but still had few miles on him, at that point at WrestleMania 19, and Kurt Angle coming off a lot of great stuff at that time period. I think that was within the realm of having Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin with him too, and two guys that just beat the crap out of each other. And then, one of the most infamous moments from that match was Brock Lesnar shooting star press. And the scary event that was. And so there was just something about that match in particular, amongst a lot of other great matches on that show, that as a kid, I remember even going to LimeWire and downloading the match and watching it on my computer over and over and over again, just because of just how grandeur and awesome it was. And then that one was really special for me as a kid. And then WrestleMania 31 was another great moment, just because of who I spent that WrestleMania with. Just some great friends, some great food, and you had the now world famous cash in from Seth Rollins. And a lot of other great matches. On WrestleMania 31 had a great card that was Triple H versus Sting, which had a lot of nostalgia built into that match as well. And so I would say those are two of my favorites. And at the core of both of them is just great feelings of nostalgia and joy based on the time period in my life and the people that I got to share it with.
Literally, unless you said WrestleMania from 2020, that would have been the only disappointment. I think anything else would have just been fantastic.
We don't speak about that. We don't talk about that.
That didn't even happen, did it? Yeah. For me, the matches were great, but my favorite WrestleMania is because it's sentimental to me. And this is going to sound weird, but it was last year's WrestleMania. But here's why. It was my very first WrestleMania to go to live. And not only did I get to go to it and see it live, be there both days, I took my oldest daughter with me. So she and I got to spend the entire weekend together, just us hanging out. And she likes wrestling. She doesn't love wrestling, but we had a great time hanging out together and just having those days together, and doing that was really cool. And then seeing Stone Cold return at that was pretty cool, and whoop up on Kevin Owens. So that was a lot of fun. What match from the past would you say is the match to top this year at WrestleMania 39?
That's a really tough question, and you're bound to upset. You're bound to upset a lot of people with that answer. But I literally was thinking back through the Rolodex through WrestleManias, and don't get me wrong, every WrestleMania has something very special about it. There's never a dud WrestleMania except for that one that we don't talk about. But I actually think, in my opinion, that we are going all the way back to WrestleMania 28, Taker versus Triple H 2 with Shawn Michaels. And and the reason I say that is because, in my opinion, I believe that is the last time where a match felt like it had the intangible stakes and consequences that seems to be missing from a lot of wrestling. So yeah, we've had title matches. 9 out of 10 of them seem to include Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar over the last decade. But if you go back to that match, and that was essentially part 3, because you had Taker Shawn, and then you had Triple H Taker 1. And so this was the culmination where simultaneously you could say there was nothing on the line, but there was everything on the line. And so I actually have a little bit of that feeling, and I'm not gonna jump too far ahead here, but a little bit of that feeling this year with our main event, that there just feels like there's something on the line, even more than a title. And it's beneath the surface, it's between the lines, but it's pride, it's honor, it's manhood, it's something. But for me, the match to beat still is WrestleMania 28, Triple H versus The Undertaker.
For me, my favorite match, I think, was Rock Hogan from WrestleMania 18 in Toronto. It wasn't that the match was so spectacular, but the crowd didn't do what everyone thought that they were going to do. And it wasn't a disruption like the crowd can be sometime. It was, I think, something that added to the match and really turned the ship on where that match may have gone. And we'll never know where it was, how it would have been shaped had the crowd not turned on Rocky and went with Hogan. And I hear that even Vince, after that match, said, fly back. And was it then, or was it anyway? Had him fly back and get his gear, his red and yellow gear, because he didn't carry it with him. He just did black and white. It may have been after that, before Raw. I think that was it. But had him fly from Toronto all the way back to Florida to get his gear and fly all the way back, just so he could come out in the red and yellow. And we often forget that the crowd is a part of the show too. And I think that's always important, that, you know, just as much as what we see in the ring, it can be dictated. Your feeling of that match can be dictated by the live crowd in attendance. Because I've watched Raws where I thought, man, this is really good. Why is no one responding? And it kind of leaves a dead feeling on the event or the match. But for Manias and the Raw after Mania, those typically don't disappoint when it comes to a crowd. But I think the match to beat holistically, build up everything, for me, is Rock Hogan from 18. Before we get too much further, I want to ask you, and we don't have to dissect it, but your quick thoughts on CM Punk drama.
I like CM Punk from a wrestling standpoint. I always felt like I resonated with him. But man, the two words that I would say to sum up my quick thoughts is common denominators. And you can only go to so many places, so many promotions, have so many relationships, and constantly be pointing the finger the other direction before it's like listening to Taylor Swift records. CD number 1, Taylor, that boy did you so wrong. CD number 2.
Awful.
Taylor, that boy did you so wrong. CD number 3. Hey, Taylor, I think you're the problem.
You could be the problem.
So, all I got to say to CM Punk is common denominators.
Is Tony going to say we're never, ever, ever getting back together? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's the question that we're waiting on. That's the question that we're waiting on.
Before we move too much further, I got to take a second and say thank you to Athletic Greens for being the sponsor of our very first WrestleChat podcast. Getting healthy, nutritious greens in my diet has always been a challenge, and I feel like I've tried everything, all the shakes and every combination. I've juiced, and that's never turned out well. Always ended up feeling hungry even after I drank everything I was supposed to. And I have, probably like you, an on-the-go lifestyle, and that really led to me grabbing whatever was convenient. I started taking vitamins last year, and those really worked well, but when I say it was a handful, it was literally a handful. It was about 8 vitamins every day to get everything that I needed. Well, I heard about Athletic Greens before on some of my favorite podcasts. I had friends that use it, and they swear by it, but let's be honest, it's green. And I've tried to gag those shakes down before in the past, and it wasn't good. Well, I'll tell you, it is not that. Here's what it is. It's 1 scoop of Athletic Greens in the morning in water, about 10 ounces of water. It doesn't taste like it looks, if I'm being honest. It actually tastes pretty good. It only has 1 gram of sugar, but all the vitamins that you need for your entire day. I feel better, my gut feels better, and it's a great way to get your morning started. They want to hook you up with the same deal that they gave me, 30-day supply of AG1, a shaker, vitamin D drops that go in the drink, a canister to store it all in, plus 5 free travel packs when you're on the go. Head over to WrestleChatPodcast.com/AG1, the letters A, the letter G, and the number 1. There's no commitment. You cancel at any time. They even give you a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you get it and you try it and you say, Aunt, you're full of crap, this tastes awful, they're going to give you your money back, but you won't. It actually tastes really good, and it's great for you, more importantly. WrestleChatPodcast.com/AG1. Get your deal on the starter kit today. I want to explain some rules real quick. I mentioned that this podcast is a little different than maybe some of the others that you've listened to in the past, and we wanted to give a different spin on our thoughts on matches or events going on in the wrestling world. So here's how it works. Each match will have a time limit. The undercard has 3 minutes each. The semi-mains are 6 minutes, and they are open discussion. The main event has no time limit, and it is an open discussion as well. And what I mean by open discussion is each one of us is going to take the lead on one of the undercards and give our thoughts on that. The other person will have 30 seconds to refute or add to or whatever. Also want to remind you to follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, also YouTube. If you're not watching right now, we're there as well. You can follow us there. And more importantly, we want you to chime in on the WrestleChat Podcast because you are going to be what makes this thing work. You ready to get this started?
Let's do it.
Just a couple of hours from right now, we will kick off WrestleMania 39 live from LA, 2-day extravaganza. And I don't know if anybody thought that, this whole thing would kick off with John Cena, but here we are, John Cena versus Austin Theory for the U.S. title kicking off night one. What do you think, Michael?
It's a pretty interesting lineup. Obviously, there's some favor behind the curtain with Austin Theory. Doesn't seem like he's super well liked by a good number of people, though, for one reason or another. And I think we've seen that play out on TV. But, as I was digging in, getting ready for the weekend, this guy, he's still pretty green. He debuted in 2016. And so, on one hand, I got to give it to him for being, just a handful of years down the road in his career. And, he's opening WrestleMania. And so that's a pretty fantastic place to be. I'm super happy for him. That's got to be a huge career-defining moment. Now, on the other hand, this matchup is incredibly interesting. Great mic work by Cena coming into it, but from a wrestling perspective, kind of a cold intro to it. And so what I'm really hoping is that Cena does a good job of working with Theory, helping Theory showcase a lot of really great talent that he has. And I'm excited to see what becomes of it. I think it's going to have some pretty interesting implications for what the short-term future of the U.S. title looks like. I think it would be great to see Cena on a weekly basis for a little while. I also know the importance of making sure that we're developing new stars and making sure that we're putting people over. But I think I know how it's going to go, but I'm not sure how it's going to go. So we're gonna see.
What is your thought? How do you think it's going to end when the bell rings at the end of the match?
I have to believe that based on the climate of the U.S. title, that we're going to see John Cena in another U.S. championship run. I don't think it's going to be very long. Guy's busy. He's getting older. Can't take the bumps like he used to. But I do believe that we're going to see Cena pick up the title. I think we might even see an Austin Theory, potentially a slight reboot. Maybe working on his character a little bit. He's got all the tools. But I think we're just trying to figure out who he is, who is Austin Theory in WWE.
I want to go back real quick to something you said about the mic with John Cena and him and John on the mic. I thought it was odd to me to see how John buried Theory on the mic with virtually no response from Theory until a couple of weeks later in an empty arena.
Yep.
Which I thought was just bizarre. If your goal was to light a fire, okay. I've seen him do it and do it a little different way. If your goal was to get Austin Theory over, that to me seemed like an odd way to do it. So that's just my thought. It seems like the veteran, of course, this is just us on the outside looking in. It felt like John maybe didn't want to do this match.
Maybe. Yep.
And goes, well, I'm going to teach this guy. All right, let's move on to Bianca Belair versus Asuka, the Raw Women's title. For me, this match doesn't have a story other than Asuka winning the Royal Rumble. And that can be the beginning of a story, I believe, but not the story. They won this match, so they have this match. They won this Rumble, so now they get a title shot. But what else is there to sink your teeth into? Asuka lacks the ability, or WWE has not allowed her to communicate well with the audience. And I think that's the biggest downfall with this character and this wrestler. When a potential star like, let's say, Brock Lesnar, back in the day when he came in, well, he didn't communicate well on the mic either. He spoke English and evidently, but what did they do? They gave him Paul Heyman. They gave him a mouthpiece, someone who could help him communicate with the audience of how vicious and how rabid he was and how he was going to destroy his opponent. Those are elements that I think that Asuka has. I mean, she is an amazing, amazing wrestler, but she just does things. There's no communication when it comes there. I think there are several stars, starting with Asuka, that could usher in maybe a new crop of managers, per se, someone to help them communicate a storyline with an audience. Did you ever see the interview that Eric Bischoff had with the Broom back at his WWF tryout?
Yep, sure did.
That's kind of how I feel like that's what we get with someone working with Asuka.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're literally thrown in the ring with a broom.
Yep.
And because she doesn't talk back, she does. It's in Japanese. We can't understand her. Although Asuka can work and she is a star, no doubt. But if she can't speak effectively and you're not going to give her a mouthpiece, she becomes that broom in my eyes. She's someone who can deliver if you give her the right pieces. Mm-hmm. I thought, man, did you watch any of the Hall of Fame last night? Did you get a chance to watch that before?
Yep.
When the Great Muta came out, he was short, sweet, and what he said was effective. Mm-hmm. I'm even fine if Asuka can do that, but they really don't give her a chance to talk much on the mic if she can do that. If she can't do that, give her someone who can, because she's a star that's going to go to waste if you don't. That's my thought.
Yep. It's a shame because
goes on anywhere,
as you said, Asuka, she's a star, man. I mean, when you go back to NXT and you see the weight that was put into her Empress of Tomorrow, or whatever her name was, she is a force to be reckoned with. And it's just a shame that we don't get to see more of that ominous person behind the immense talent. And so definitely agree with everything that you're saying. What I'm hoping is that we're going to get a great wrestling match despite coming into it a little cold.
Who do you think wins it?
Based on everything that we've said, Asuka had a very successful title run. I think Bianca is going to come out on top. Just because
I think so too.
Everything we've pointed out already.
The champion retains. All right, moving on to this father-son drama. I'm excited about this match. You take the lead here. Let me know what your thoughts on Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio. First time ever, father versus son at a WrestleMania, or maybe ever.
Yep. This is such a, to a lot of casual fans, this seems like some routine undercard match. That is you can get up, go to the bathroom during, or refill your snacks. But, regardless of how you feel about it, there is so much underneath this match. As you've pointed out, is this the first ever, father-son WrestleMania match? But Dominic Mysterio has this very unique relationship with WWE that goes all the way back to when he was a kid. I mean, this kid was on TV at a very, very young age. And so, whether intentionally or accidentally, I don't know if Vince could plan 20 years into the future, but we've seen this kid in certain intervals grow up on WWE TV, and whether you want to be or not, you're vested in him and the Mysterio family. And so this has been a super fun a feud between father and son. I don't feel like it's gotten like. I don't feel like it's crossed the barrier of like, oh man, do they really hate each other? It's been the perfect amount of reality and kayfabe, and in certain ways it's been playful. But I'm really excited for this match because not only I think what we're gonna see is the special bond between a father and a son inside the ring, and I think that passion is really going to come through and make for a really great match. My guess is going to be that Dominic will go over, which would be rightfully so. I do think he'll come out on top. And I think there's going to be this really beautiful passing of the torch moment that I'm really looking forward to. And I, both guys obviously wrestle super well for the amount of miles that Ray has on him, and for his age, he still works incredibly well. And so yes. I'm really excited for these guys to do this. I think it's going to be a great match, and yeah, it's going to be a really good time.
Yeah, I think so too. This one is special for many reasons for me as well. One for me is that Ray gets to work with his son on the biggest stage the same week that he goes into the Hall of Fame as well.
Awesome.
And I think that's so cool. And you talk about how the reality and kayfabe of it all too. Last night when Ray started his speech for the Hall of Fame, you see Dominic and those guys stand up and leave.
Yep.
And the whole place boos, but I think for a couple of reasons why it was important. One, it kept the storyline going. Why would you sit there while your father gave a speech and not something happen if there's all this animosity? But two, you got to know that Dominic in real life got emotional when his dad was speaking.
Yep.
And that can't be on camera.
Right.
At least to the cameras in the moment. Maybe the ones that are for the documentary later, but definitely not during the moment. All right, moving on to Hell in a Cell. Edge versus Finn Balor. This is the first Hell in a Cell we've had in a while at a WrestleMania. I think the last one was it Shane?
Yep.
Versus Undertaker?
Yep.
Yeah. To do a Hell in a Cell match at Mania, it needs to be a special reason as well and have a special story. And I think this one has the potential to shoot Edge off into retirement in the best way possible. He spoke about this, that when he came back at the Royal Rumble, that began his final run. And this can also send Finn Balor to the moon when it comes to becoming an even bigger star than he already is. One thing that I do hope that they do, I hope they keep the match inside the cage. We've seen so many different things happen on the outside of the cage, and every time they do it, it always feels like someone's trying to one-up Mick Foley and Undertaker from the second one. And, of course, Shane took them up off the top, and that was obviously way more planned. There were air cushions and all this other stuff, and I feel like the cage was much higher in that match as well. But I hope they keep everything inside of it, because that's kind of the point of the cage in the first place. The man that replaced you in the faction that you created brings his demon with him to a structure that they call Hell in a Cell. That's a pretty cool story. It's a battle for supremacy, but it's also a battle for legacy as well. What is the legacy of Edge going to look like after this match? Like I said, I think it could help, start that countdown into his retirement and do it on the biggest stage in probably the biggest match. Both guys work like no one's business, and I think this match has the potential to be the show stealer of WrestleMania. I mean, of course, when you have a cage that big. Also, when we were talking on your podcast, the Man Child Chronicles, we were you brought up that they brought out the old school cage for this match and not the one that is blood red and hard to see through and really awful on TV, because red is not not that great on television. Does that add a factor to you that's a little different than some of the other Hell in a Cell matches?
Absolutely. I mean,
going back to the old cage,
we've seen with Hell in a Cell and the Elimination Chamber, we want people to be safe. We don't want people to get hurt. And so we understand these new incarnations of these products. But when you have something, powder-coated red, it takes a certain amount of ominousness away from, what's going on. So bringing back the classic cage gives you that feeling that this is a big deal. And it's not the new polished version. It's the version that's going to punch you in the face.
You know what doesn't happen on WWE anymore at all is blood.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised to see some in this match, and it would be justifiable.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
All right, let's move on to Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. You want to take the lead on this one, Michael?
Yeah. Logan Paul's a hard guy to like for a lot of reasons.
Yes, indeed.
And so believe me when I tell you that behooves me to say that I'm actually looking forward to this match, because the thing about Logan Paul that I so greatly appreciate is that when he sets his mind to something, he does it. Now, the problem is that sometimes the things that he sets his mind to, he needed that friend to go, hold on just a second. But specifically in the context of professional wrestling, every time I see that guy, he wows me. He really is a true athlete. For someone who has come in to the WWE fold so quickly and in my opinion so far out of left field, the matches and the athleticism that he has put forth have just been incredible. The professional and personal touch it takes to jump off the top rope onto the announce table while holding a cell phone. A lot of guys didn't do that before. And the guy knows how to market himself. The guy knows how to work. And so with this match, you've got Seth Rollins, who in my opinion is the Shawn Michaels of the next generation. And so you've got, this high caliber guy like Seth Rollins, who, is going to be first ballot Hall of Fame someday. And going against Logan Paul, it's going to be a great match. You can tell that there's some actual rub between these two guys, and that's been confirmed, at multiple different places. But both these guys also know how to be professional. But the great thing about situations like this is you can take your disdain for someone, throw it in a pot, mix in a little professionalism, and it ends up turning out to be gold. And so I think we're going to see a highly athletic match. I think we're going to see some great spots. I really think that we're going to see a story told in the middle of the ring, because both these guys know how to do that. Both these guys know how to entertain. And so this is a match that I'm really looking forward to, because like you said, with Edge and Finn Balor, I think this has show-stealing potential, because these guys are willing, they're able, and they're willing to leave it every bit all in the ring. And so Seth Rollins, Logan Paul, don't sleep on it. It's going to be a banger.
I'm right there with you. Now, I'm not a Logan Paul fan. I never have been. I've never watched his YouTube channel. I know that was a big deal, especially a few years ago, but I know now it is. I do have respect for him, though, in the fact that he's done some legit training to be able to do the things that he does in a ring. And you're right. And I think probably because of his success in YouTube, he's learned how to tell a story. And now he just pulled that into the ring, and he's obviously done the training and done everything he needs to be in shape to do some just unbelievable moves that you would not. Yeah. It would be amazing for someone who is a wrestler. It is outstanding for someone who doesn't do this full time. And so I agree with you. That could be a show stealer too, for sure. Moving on to Becky, Lita, Trish versus Damage Control. That's Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. First off, it is really cool to see Lita and Trish. These are two legends that have come back that haven't been overused in other things before, I believe. They come back at special times. It's really cool to see how Lita can still go. I would like to see Trish go a little bit more. I mean, she looks amazing. She is a great throwback to some of the most memorable things that we watched growing up, or when WWE was super hot, during the Attitude Era. To me, Becky is the biggest women's star in WWE right now. I personally think she is bigger and better than Charlotte. And that will probably piss a lot of you that are watching or listening right now off, because you may be huge Charlotte fans. For me, it's Becky. Becky is that person, and I love that they have this other side battle that just continues to linger there. Don't let that go away, because that's going to come back at some point. Bayley, great singles competitor. Dakota and Io, both great themselves. Together, Damage Control. It just doesn't click. And I don't know why. It was really cool when we saw them all together at SummerSlam last year in Nashville when they walked out. You saw Bayley walk out, and then you saw Dakota and Io walk out with her, come in behind her, and you're like, oh wow, Bayley's back. And these two that were in NXT and were let go are now back, or at least I think Dakota was let go. When they came out, it was a shock, and I hadn't seen any rumors about them coming to the show, them being a new faction, them being involved in the main roster in any way, especially Bayley coming back from an injury. I didn't know that was when that was going to happen, but to be honest, for me, that's where the intrigue ended. It was right there at SummerSlam, because after that, it has been nothing but downhill in my eyes, I think. And listen, I'll kind of pause right here to say that this podcast isn't going to be all down in the gutter and what bad things are happening in wrestling. We want to keep it up. Just being honest about this particular pairing, I think everybody kind of sees this one. It has been a bad pairing, unless something happens like, Trish turning on Lita and Becky during the match. This really isn't my favorite match to see at WrestleMania this year. And how does it feel to you, Michael?
You're exactly right with Damage Control. I really think it's just a drop ball from the company, because there's a lot of potential between those. Yeah. And if you recall, that weekend that they came together was Triple H's first official run as the creative head of the company. Very true. So I think what we saw is Triple H moving some pieces into place. And then what I think happened, which is not his fault, there's a lot of things to deal with. The attention got shifted to other areas, and this just kind of fell by the wayside. But what I will say is I am looking forward to the match, because Lita and Trish made me a man, and so I'm gonna be there for the nostalgia's sake of it, because I love the ladies. Grew up watching them, and a lot of great memories with them, and so it'll be an okay match to watch for nostalgia's sake, but will not be my favorite storyline or wrestling wise.
Well, here we are about 30 minutes closer to the kickoff of WrestleMania 39, night number 1. Let's move on to Brock Lesnar versus Omos, two big beasts. Michael, what do you think?
And I don't know.
We just talked about how we're not going to be negative on here, and we have the two stinkers. You might as well rent the Goodyear blimp and fly it over the stadium with the words Vince McMahon booked this match. Okay? Yes, that's exactly what I have here too.
And so here's the thing. Brock Lesnar's a brawler, okay? He can wrestle collegiate, that's fine. But if you look at his career, he's really not a wrestler. He just beats the crap out of you, okay? Then you have Omos. that is still incredibly green. I love his character. I love some of the little things that they've done with him. Him being the bouncer for Raw Underground, I thought was a really nice touch in a very weird scenario.
Yes.
His work with AJ Styles is phenomenal. I love it. This pairing, you can't just say, hey, we have two big guys, let's put them together and it's going to be awesome. Two big guys does not equal awesome. And so what I think we're going to see, and again, there's a lot of things that I love about wrestling. I don't live to trash it or just constantly look at the negatives, but this match is going to be a struggle. I am the most shocking thing for me about WrestleMania weekend is if this match goes over in any way, shape, or form well. And so I think that both guys can do it. I think whoever's producing the match is going to have to be very careful and make some smart decisions. But I said to you a couple days ago, there's been a few times in history where we've seen Brock in full shoot mode get royally pissed at somebody in the middle of the ring. I'm thinking back to who it was. He was either John Cena or Randy Orton that took Brock's elbows in the middle of the ring and just busted him wide open because of Brock taking too stiff of a shot. And I feel like we're going to see that here. I think Almost is going to have some receipts that he's going to get from this match. And I want it to go well. I really do. But I think it's going to be a rough watch. But in terms of a prediction, I can't see Brock letting Almost go over in this go around, which is confusing because he needs the momentum. So I'm going to pick Brock Lesnar to win this one, even though I admit that doesn't make much sense.
Is there a chance for this thing to end in a no contest? I mean, it's not going to be a count out, I wouldn't think, or maybe a disqualification just to let them do whatever they're going to do, and then it just kind of end with nothing, so neither one of them elevates, neither one of them looks worse.
It's possible, but then, in pure logic form, why do it in the first place? And you're in the worst possible booking scenario, because how are you going to have, a no contest situation with two of the biggest competitors in the WWE?
For me, it feels like they're looking for a moment rather than just letting a moment happen. They're trying to set something up, whether it's Almost on the shoulders of Brock to go in an F5, whether he does one or not, or it's the first time you really see Brock Lesnar run from a fight or be in peril, which he never really has. Even when he's lost, he's never. It's just been that somebody caught him. He wasn't running from anything. We have 3 more matches in this breakdown today on the very first episode of the WrestleChat Podcast. Don't forget, follow us, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you're not watching, we're on YouTube. It's WrestleChat Podcast. Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley is up next for the SmackDown Women's title. Boy, this was a match that happened in 2020. That WrestleMania that we don't talk about, right? No crowd in attendance, nothing. And this was even before the the Thunderdome, even before that, right? And they got to wrestle. Rhea came out on the losing end of that match. I'm wondering if this isn't her time in front of a massive crowd. She is on a run like no other. Her in Judgment Day has been the perfect pairing, and it's funny because it feels like her being added to Judgment Day was dictated by the audience. Everybody was pushing for her to be a part of that because it looked like it just fit. And boy, did it ever. They have done some really good stuff. It's led to a couple of really great storylines. Finn versus Edge. You've got Dominic versus his father. And now you've got Rhea versus Charlotte, the rematch. When it comes to championships, no one is better than Charlotte. I mentioned Becky is my favorite female wrestler in WWE right now, but Charlotte has 16 world titles under her belt. Personally, I like Becky all around more than Charlotte, but I get it. If Rhea wins this one, though, this is a massive rub for Rhea. This could be a giant launching pad for her. I mean, she's I think it's going to be hard for her to beat Charlotte. However, I think it's inevitable for her to beat Charlotte. She is on a trajectory right now that we haven't seen, and it's also not rushed. I don't feel like it's been, she's a bigger than average woman who's muscular and strong. Let's just have her destroy everybody and it be over with. She's worked her way. She's had challenges. She's overcome those. She's had success, and then she's had challenges again, just like anybody else would. And you've seen her overcome those. I think Charlotte may be the one that she overcomes and ends up getting her hand raised. Plus, it could give Charlotte the opportunity to break her father's record of 16 titles. Right now, they are tied. So if Charlotte loses this one, she has a chance to win a title again and break her father's record. What do you think, man? Do you think this is something that could happen? I think this match is on night one. Been a lot of controversy whether it's going to be the main event or if it's going to be the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. But how do you think this one ends when it's all said and done?
Cram a lot of response into a short time period. I'm not a Charlotte Flair fan. Mm-hmm. I'm not. She's one of the only people in the WWE who has had the success she has had because of her name. If you look at The Rock, if you look at Randy Orton, if you look at quite a few people who are multi-generation superstars, all of them tried to stay away from the family name to prove themselves, to move on. Charlotte Flair has not done that. The fact that she's been around for just the handful of years that she is, and she's at 16 world championship reigns, that was pre-planned, premeditated for all of that to happen. Rhea Ripley is a star. She is an organic star. The people love her. Charlotte Flair's been gone more often than not the last couple of years. Put the title on Rhea, let her run with it. People love her. She's a fantastic worker. She's a star. She's different. She deserves the title for the way that she's kept the grind. Charlotte can go do movies for all I care.
For this podcast, we are on our semi-main event for WrestleMania 39, the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. This is an open discussion. Let's just talk about this one. Man, this is this has to be the best storyline. This whole bloodline storyline has to be the best thing in wrestling going right now. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, absolutely. This takes me back. The last incarnation of something this beautiful that I remember was the Evolution faction with Triple H, Batista, Randy Orton, Ric Flair. Now, while the premises are not the same, you gotta, a faction existing does not automatically mean it's good. And so to me, I go all the way back to Evolution before you've got something with this caliber and this amount of buy-in. It's just been incredible to see this unfold the way that it has over the last year or two. And so super, super excited about this. There's so much on the line going into this, even with Sammy and Kevin's history going all the way back like it does, and we've seen their hot cold relationship over the years, starting all the way back to NXT when Kevin Owens came in and did the powerbomb on the ring apron to Sami Zayn the night he debuted. And so there is probably more story in this match than the majority of wrestling in general put together. Right. I'm super excited about this. This is a real stakes match. You're trying to defend a bloodline, a brotherhood, a family. On the other side, you have betrayal in the form of Sami Zayn. You have tentative and rocky friendships that are rekindling and rebuilding. This is wrestling. This is wrestling storytelling, and I could not be more excited for this match. Even though, it's great to have, world titles in the main event, my hope is that this is the main event for night one because these guys deserve it.
Yeah, I agree. Is it going to be the main event of night one? Should it be? Yes, absolutely it should be. This thing is massive. Best story going in WWE, and like you mentioned, it's probably the best story going on in wrestling, period. It should cap off night one. And if it is the first time ever that a tag team titles have been decided at WrestleMania in a main event. The only other time there was a main event with a tag match was the very first WrestleMania, 38 WrestleManias ago, with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T taking on Roddy Piper, Mr. Wonderful. Who else? All I remember is Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. But man, that was the last time that a tag match was in a main event. Whether it does or doesn't, it really doesn't matter. This is where everyone's emotions are. They are in this match. And you mentioned the history between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They're even, I mean, I love that when they got back together, it was good, but it wasn't like it was just like everything was swept under the rug, because even Kevin, after that next time they came out, Kevin came out by himself, then Sami came out by himself, and he talks about, hey, you got to have, I know why you wanted to come out by yourself, because you got to hear your music and hear the crowd. So you already sense that there is still animosity in this relationship. They are friends. They do argue. They do fight, but they're going to fight together in this match to take on the Usos and bring home those titles and hopefully end the bloodline. That's their goal, but you can still tell that there's still something between them that hasn't been said, maybe they need to fight each other at some point to then squash some of that. Who knows? And where they'll take all this, man, it could go anywhere. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. This is the one that I hope closes it out for my sake of being rested throughout this day. I'm fine if it goes on anywhere before then, because then I don't have to prop my eyes open or anything like that. I'm still excited about it, but often when I get to the main event, I'm yawning and going, all right, I'll be to bed. It's just about over, babe. I'll be in there just a minute,
Yep.
That's kind of where most WrestleManias end up in our household. And I think just like during the Super Bowl, that Monday should be a holiday. I think the Monday after WrestleMania should be a holiday as well. We've got one more match. And, man, I'll say before we get to that one, this has been a really fun very first episode of the WrestleChat Podcast. You ready to jump into this?
Let's do it.
This is a big one. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, the undisputed Universal title. If you had a chance to listen to the preview of this podcast, I gave some thoughts on this match that, back in 1977 when Cody's father, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, got to wrestle for the title in Madison Square Garden, he took on superstar Billy Graham, and he ended up getting his hand raised. The Dream did, because Superstar was counted out. But you can't lose the title that way, so it slipped through his fingers on a technicality. What if, at the end of this match, Cody gets the title, but something happens, and he gets screwed over just like his dad did? What is that? I don't know. That would give them some opportunity to take this match to SummerSlam. It would allow Roman Reigns to be able to have over 1,000 days with the title, which doesn't set a record, but it gives a nice round number. He's not to 1,000 yet. And it allows this storyline to go on. But there's another avenue that I want to touch on here in just a minute as well, that I think a direction that this could go as well. I mean, the history of Cody after Stardust, him being the trailblazer, that attitude, his determination, man, it is just, he's undeniable. He is going to be the champion at some point. Is it on night 2 of WrestleMania? I don't know. Michael, what do you think?
There is so much baked into the background of this. It is no secret that WWE is about homegrown stars, and you're usually picked from an early time, to succeed. And the closest example that I can think to this Cody situation was actually Drew McIntyre. At a young age, Drew McIntyre, he was the chosen one, not the self-proclaimed chosen one, the chosen one.
Vince McMahon chose him.
And Vince McMahon chose him.
Yeah.
And it never hit. And so then he leaves and he comes back, and don't get me wrong, since he's been back, he's won some titles and different things like that, but he's never had that champion feel about him, even when he was the champion. And people may disagree. That's fine. But to me, he never looked, acted, or anything like a champion. And so you take that same situation, you come over here to Cody Rhodes, and he did some great stuff in his first run. I understand as from the family that he comes from and from his outlook on wrestling why Stardust was frustrating for him. I was a big Stardust supporter. I did like it. Wasn't my favorite. But, the stuff that he did with the Legacy, with Ted DiBiase and Randy Orton and stuff like that, all great stuff. But the part that worries me, based on your opening to this, is could we potentially, for the first time ever, see someone leave the WWE and come back and actually be a champion's champion? And here's the thing. A couple years ago when he left and he started his run to come back on the indies, and he released that first American Nightmare promo, it floored me from the first time I saw it, because it was such a stark contrast to the last time we had seen him. I attribute Cody Rhodes to a Ric Flair-esque champion. He looks the part.
Yep.
He dresses the part.
Yep.
He has the attitude and the charisma and the musk of a champion. And when he comes out and he's wearing that suit and it fits well and it looks great and I'm sure it's expensive, you look at that guy and you go, that's the guy that I want to be. And so all of that to say, it's hard for me in this situation because I want him to be that champion. I want him to come out on top. But just as you pointed out, is this the right time? Because as much as I want it to happen on the biggest stage of them all, I can't deny that things feel better when there's a little bit of adversity. And while he did get injured and he worked super hard to come back, that's not the kind of adversity that's the struggle when you're trying to become champion. The struggle to become a champion is to beat the current champion. And so Reigns has done a fantastic job for a guy who was crapped on for so many years when he was up and coming, rightfully so by me too. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I saw it way back then, but he has perfected his current role in WWE. He is a superstar, and as I said to you a couple days ago, this match doesn't just have a big fight feel. It has the X factor to it, where there's a title on the line, but bigger than that, there's something else on the line too. And this match just feels so huge that no matter what happens, no matter who walks away with the title, I'm going to be happy with it. Because it is a story that is being told, and regardless of what happens, some stories end great and some stories don't. But this is not a match that we are going to be disappointed with in any way, shape, or form.
Couldn't agree more. I think the talk has been, though, is if Cody wins, then what? What's next? My thought is, what if we let Cody have his moment, swimming in the confetti on Sunday, but during either his celebration there that night or on the Raw after Mania, we see the return of the Viper. I haven't heard, and I have purposely stayed away from the rumor mill when it comes to about 2 weeks out. I try to stay away from all the rumors of WrestleMania. So this is genuine. Like, what if this is what's next? That is a story that has already been written, just hasn't been told yet. It's just waiting for the right time. What if Randy comes back after them? We're just a few hours away from the big event, WrestleMania 39, live from SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. And man, what a beautiful stadium. I saw the reveal of the set yesterday, the official reveal from WWE, and the place looks amazing. I mean, you and I geek out on the technical stuff. I need to watch WrestleMania twice. One just to, and this is what I did live as well last year, was I just looked at all the technical things that were going on and how much goes into that. That's going to be fun to watch, as well as all the matches as well. Man, I can't thank you enough for kicking off the very first WrestleChat podcast here with me, Michael. Appreciate you being on today.
It was an absolute honor. Would love to be back anytime. Appreciate you so much. Thanks for doing this. I really think the professional wrestling community needs this. They need you. And so it was such an honor today to be here with you. Had a great time. Thank you so much.
Next Saturday, it'll be all about the fallout from, of course, WrestleMania, from the Raw after WrestleMania, from SmackDown next week. But we're also going to dive into the latest from AEW. Ring of Honor had a big event the same night as SmackDown. So just last night, as we're recording this, we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. It's called WrestleChat for a reason. We want you to get involved. So follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all of them. We're all there on all of those. Just follow us at WrestleChat Podcast. I hope you enjoy WrestleMania 39, and I'll see you next week.